the site of our last war against a, quote, bad guy, ended up creating a whole lot more, quote, bad guys for us to fight. Joining me now is Congresswoman Barbara Lee, Democrat from California. She was just nominated by President Obama to be a representative of the United States to the United Nations General Assembly. She opposes military involvement in Syria. Congresswoman, as someone who is the lone member of Congress to vote against the authorization of the use of military force, who has served in the Capitol through the trajectory of the days after 9/11 to now, do you think this latest chapter of public debate and congressional involvement in our contemplation of military force in Syria is a turning point?
I certainly do, Chris, and thank you very much for giving me a chance to be with you this evening. It's a turning point because I believe right now the public and the entire country is engaged in this debate in terms of the proper use of military force in our country, what the constitutional prerogatives are of the president, and also what in fact we do to achieve what we all want to achieve, and that is global peace and security. With regard to Syria, I do not believe that military strikes and action will lead to what Secretary Kerry and the President have called for, and that's a political settlement. And so I'm very proud and pleased that the President, one, came to Congress to debate this and to ask for a vote, but secondly, has really, begun to walk through a diplomatic process that hopefully will work, and that we will not have to, at least in the near future, decide whether or not we should put our votes up or down in terms of using military force.
Diplomacy, it strikes me as we watch members of Congress and the President in kind of an amazing moment in the trajectory of American foreign policy since 9/11, a moment in which members of Congress across the aisle, the President himself, have all expressed, embraced openness to diplomacy, to a diplomatic solution, possibly work through Syria, Russia, the United Nations Security Council. That moment also is a tough one because diplomacy may be very difficult. Do you think it's possible to continue Americans' political investment in diplomacy even when it gets hard?
I absolutely think so, Chris. Diplomacy is hard. It's slow. And it's very tough to bring the entire world together. But I'm confident that our president can bring this world together, because that is what he absolutely has to do. Bring the international community together. One, to make sure that chemical weapons are either put under international control and or destroyed. Two, that we really come to grips with the fact that weapons of mass destruction, nuclear weapons, chemical weapons have no place in the civilized world. And so we've got to do this. The Assad regime needs to be held accountable. I think all of us, even those who do not support a military strike, want to insist that this regime be held accountable for the horrific death and destruction that has taken place. And so we have that opening now.
That to me strikes me as really the issue here, which is when we say words like held accountable, we've been so conditioned to think of those in terms of force and to think of them in terms of American action that when we're talking about held accountable means a UN Security Council resolution, I think there's a lot of Americans who say that's a meaningless body. How do you make the case to them that it's not?
It's not a meaningless body. The United Nations was founded in 1946, and believe you me, it has prevented many, many wars. It is a body that, of course, is very diverse. We have every country, or most countries in the world, which belong to the United Nations, and in fact, different political systems. And so we have to, if we can't work within a United Nations framework, how in the world do we lead the world in the name of human rights and democracy? And so we can't be cynical about this. The world is very small. We're part of a global family. If we don't work within a global body, we become isolated, and then we become a country which really only cares about our own internal and domestic politics and policies. And we're part of a larger global family, and America should be proud to lead and proud to lead in the United Nations. And I think this is a critical, defining moment for this country, and our president certainly knows what he's doing in terms of bringing to the international body a process that could lead to a possible political settlement. But it's going to be very difficult. No one says it's easy, but I am very pleased with the